Before you begin, make sure the lino being replaced and the lino replacement piece are the same temperature, preferably 68 to 70 degrees. This helps to prevent unwanted shrinkage or expansion of the replacement piece, which would cause gaps or seam overlap. Always use a brand new knife blade in your utility knife. It's just easier that way. Less chance of errors caused by a dull blade. Overcut the replacement piece. The excess will be trimmed away later, but for now, the excess will help line things up. Beware, not all blocks are the same size, even though they may look it. If the replacement piece is not an exact match, line up the grout lines as best you can, keeping in mind that your cut needs to be in the grout line to the outside of both blocks. If you have an exact match of new lino to old, like here, the cut can be made just inside the color. Line up the grout lines so they match the piece underneath perfectly. Then tape the new piece down using 2-inch wide masking tape. Don't be afraid to go overboard with the tape. You only have one shot at this. If the new piece of lino moves on you, now you're replacing 9 blocks instead of 1. When you make your cut, be sure to use firm pressure to go through both layers of lino. Overcut the corners just a bit. This ensures the bottom layer has clean corners. If a replacement piece of lino bumps up a year or so later, it's most likely to be at the corners because of a small little piece left behind from the old lino. Use a piece of masking tape to mark an edge on the new lino to remember how it gets placed later. Set the replacement piece aside until needed. Remove the scrap part of the new lino and get it out of the way. If needed, use a heat gun on low or a hairdryer to warm up the old piece of lino for easier removal. This helps the glue to release and the lino backer won't tear off and stick to the floor as much. Go slow. Cut the glue strands as you go so you don't end up with glue hairs all over the place. Carefully remove any piece of backer that has stuck to the floor. You don't want to gouge the floor. Be sure there's nothing that will cause bumps under the lino, like wood chips, pieces of backer, screws, etc. Make sure all edges and corners are free of debris. The edges need to be clean cut all the way to the underlayment. If the lino is floating, work the adhesive 2 to 3 inches up under the edges. Press out the excess glue and make sure everything is flat. Apply a thin, even coat of any good lino glue to the area for the new lino piece. Work the adhesive into the corners extremely well to keep them from working free. Also, push the glue into the edges. This helps secure any loose edges as well as create a better glue bond. Do not use a notched trowel to apply the glue since you are trying to apply such a thin layer as well as you are working with such a small area. The new glue will help even out the old glue layer, so just cover the old glue. Press the edges of the old lino down to work out any excess glue and to make sure the edges are flat. Use the applicator to remove the excess adhesive. Wait 10 to 20 minutes, depending on temperature, for the glue to start setting up. Once the glue starts to dull and get a little darker in color, you are now ready to insert the new piece of lino. Start with the corner closest to you, pulling the corner and edge toward you. Then work your way around the edges, getting as much excess glue out as possible. Really pay attention to the corners. Apply pressure across the center to ensure good contact. Clean with denatured alcohol. Regular alcohol will work, but it takes longer to clean and doesn't seem to work quite as well. Mineral spirits will interfere with the sealant process. Do not use mineral spirits for cleaning for at least 24 hours. Get the seam and surrounding areas as clean as you possibly can. Gulfstream uses the seam sealer, Congloleum U92, for all lino repairs. It just seems to work the best for our needs. The seal applicator has a small ridge on one side of the tip, which goes directly on the seam. This applicator bottle is held straight up and down while applying the sealant. Move quick enough for a nice smooth application, but not so fast the sealant starts to skip. Feather out the edges of the sealant for a smoother finish. In 5 to 10 minutes, the lino is safe to walk on, although 24 hours is better. After 24 hours, take a scratch pad to lightly scuff up the sealant bead. This will blend the seam with the rest of the lino, as well as knock down any remaining high points left by the edge of the applicator tip.